Blocks, how I love thee. Hey, I'm Katie, and today I'm going to show you why I love blocks so much, and also how you can use them in your everyday yoga practice to make it even more interesting and more enjoyable. Okay, so first I'm going to start on hands and knees using the blocks. When you use the blocks underneath your hands, it actually reduces the pressure on your wrists. So with your hands on the blocks, we'll start to take cat and cow. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, press down and round. Get a nice stretch in your back. After a few rounds of cat-cow, you can open up the knees, keep your hands on the blocks. Sit back into a child's pose. With your hands on the blocks, you get a little more stretch into the shoulders. All right, coming back up to hands and knees, keep the blocks underneath your hands. I'm gonna actually lift them onto the medium height. So still we're shifting the weight, instead of all the way to the hands, we're shifting it back towards the knees and the hips. So we can come into a modified plank pose with less pressure on the wrists. So for modified plank, hug the belly in, roll the shoulders back, take a deep breath in. As you exhale, just bend the elbows a little bit. Chaturanga push-ups. Inhale, press up. If you want to make it a little more interesting, go down one step. Then inhale, lift up, exhale, sit back, child's pose again. All right, come back to hands and knees. Step your foot forward in between your hands. You'll take one block on the low height and place it right underneath your back thigh, so it acts like a little kind of pedestal for your thigh. This is gonna both keep your thigh in place and also give you support as you start to lift up and stretch. Seated lunge, right? So you have support underneath that thigh, which helps you lift up even more. Stretch up through the fingertips, relax the shoulders. Full deep breath. Take a big breath in, bring the hands to prayer, start to twist to your right side. That block's gonna help to ground you through the back thigh, right? So it doesn't wiggle out of place, and you keep stretching the spine out from the hips. Deep breath. And then take the hands down to the floor, bring the block back underneath your hands, and then we'll take a runner stretch. So hands stay on the blocks, start to straighten the front leg. I like to come up really high for this stretch. Blocks right underneath the shoulders. And with the blocks here, you have a little bit more space to lengthen the spine and find the hinge or the fold coming from your hips rather than from your low back. So use the blocks to lift the chest and send your seat back. All right, coming back down to lunge. Do the other side. One thing to remember is that even though you're using the blocks underneath your hands, there's not a ton of weight. So you're staying really light in the palms, light in the wrists. They're literally there just for support, right? Just to give you balance and to help you stay lifted through the rest of your body. If you start to bring too much weight into them, you're going to crush into the wrists and the joints, and it's not going to feel very good. So one more deep breath here. Good, then from here I'm going to come into a lunge, walk the blocks forward, lift the back knee, slide the left hand with the block even more forward, stay on the highest height, and then start to shift the weight into my left foot, lift the right leg up, stack the hips, half moon pose or Ardha Chandrasana. Staying on the highest level of the block is actually really challenging, even if you have a more advanced practice. It forces you to use the legs and the hips. Spin the chest open, spread the arms wide, deep breaths. And then slowly lower down, come back. Fold over, you can use the blocks to support your hands. And then other side. Come back to the fold, use the blocks underneath your hands. You can also use a block or two underneath your head here, kind of nice. And then take one block, open the legs a little bit wider, and place that block between your upper inner thighs so that you can hug your inner thighs together. Feel the hips lift up as you fold forward. Good, hug the block together as you inhale. Reach the spine long. Come all the way up to stand. Okay, from here, keep the block between your thighs. Reach the arms forward, shoulder height. As you exhale, sit your hips back to chair pose. So that block's gonna give you something to squeeze against to get you nice and strong and stable. Keep hugging the block, keep reaching the hips back, reach the arms forward. Nice deep breaths. As you exhale, fold over the legs, hug the block as you straighten the legs. Let the head go. All right, bend the knees, take the block out, and come on down to sit. So 2 options here for a hip opener using the blocks. If you are a little bit tighter in the hips, you'll take 1 block underneath each knee, bring the soles of the feet together, hug those heels in, lift the spine tall, and start to fold. Baddha Konasana. If you're fairly open in the hips, or if this doesn't feel like a deep enough stretch, take the 2 blocks out, bring 1 block on its thinnest level in between your feet, right? Hug the feet together, you'll feel a really noticeable opening in the hips. Sit tall and fold from there. Either version is great. Choose the one that feels best and most appropriate for your hips. If you have the block between your feet, really actively squeeze the feet into the block. Feel the knees reaching out to the side. Hold for about 5 breaths. All right, slowly come up. Take the blocks out, and we're gonna come onto our back for what is very likely one of my all-time favorite poses, restorative bridge. So take a block with you as you come down. Bend your knees, place your feet flat into the floor. Take the block on its lowest height, slide it underneath your sacrum. Your sacrum is that flat triangular bone right at the base of your spine. So when you lower the hips, you should feel the sacrum just settling down onto the block. Should feel really good. If it doesn't, play with the movement on the block until you find the right spot. Right? Feet stay flat on the floor, arms can relax. This just really helps to reset the low back, the sacrum, and the pelvis. Feels really good. And we'll hold here about 10 breaths. Nice, slow, deep breaths. And while you have your hips here on the block, you can start to lift the legs up. Take a little bit of an inversion. Find the place where your legs just kind of hover in space. This will bring a little bit more weight into the pelvis, which for some people feels really nice. If it doesn't feel good, skip it. Keep your feet on the floor. And you can just hang here. This feels really fun. You can like wiggle the feet. Or if you want, you can do a little bit of core work. Reach one leg up towards the ceiling and let the other leg start to come parallel to your hip. And then bring that back up and switch. You can also keep both legs straight up and then start to open them out to a V shape. Find a little inner thigh stretch and then hug the inner thighs back together. Really good work for the inner hips. And then bring both legs back up, bend the knees so the feet come back to the floor. Lift your hips, slide the block out, slowly lower the hips down. Good, then from here, take your block behind you. Use one hand to very delicately lift your head. Slide the block underneath your skull so that the edge of the block touches down right where your hairline meets the top of your neck. Then stretch the legs out. Try to really relax your spine and your head here. We're gonna stay here for no longer than 1 minute. This is a very short hold just to let the shoulders relax, let the muscles in the back of the neck lengthen, and to release the space between the skull and the top of the neck. All right, take your hand back behind your head, gently lift up, remove the block, put it to the side. Take a 1 to 2 minute Shavasana or just deep rest to let all of that integrate into your body. And take a deep breath in. As you exhale, bend your knees, walk your feet in, roll to your side, press yourself up. You can also use your blocks anytime you come to a seated pose. If you have tight hips and you find your knees are kind of lifting up off the ground, just place a block underneath them. It'll feel so much better in your hips. You can also take one block and sit on it to give your hips a little lift, which will also be more comfortable. Tell me, why do you love using blocks? What's your favorite pose? What's your favorite stretch? How do you like to use them? Leave me a comment below and share if you know someone else who could use some block love. All right, thanks for watching. Namaste.